What's up, guys? D-Rock1992 here. For this next video and for my next movie review, I'm going to be reviewing another spoof comedy by director Mel Brooks that came out in 1981, and that comedy is History of the World Part 1. So this is, like I said, another spoof comedy that's also directed by Mel Brooks. So I was very much looking forward to seeing this movie because I love other movies of Mel Brooks that he's directed and starred in that have been spoof comedies for sure. So History of the World Part 1 is basically, it's an anthology film. It's divided up into different parts. Some of them intersect with each other and some of them are separate, I believe. But there are a few different, times in history and all that. We have, for example, the History of the World Part 1 parodies the Stone Age, the Old Testament, with Moses and whatnot. They parody the Roman Empire. They also parody the Spanish Inquisition and the French Revolution. So they parody a lot of stuff. I mean, they parody a lot of key events in world history. So, I mean, Mel Brooks and company, they put their own twist on these important historical events and just make them their own, basically. So, I mean, it is, it's very, and then they have a preview of what's coming up afterwards. So that's basically what it is. It's just it's like five short stories into one film. So I mean, it's that way. And then you have Mel Brooks playing 5 roles in this film. He plays Moses. He plays Comicus, the stand-up philosopher, who's in the Roman Empire. Moses was in the Old Testament scenes. The Moses role was okay. Comicus, the stand-up philosopher, actually was pretty good. I enjoyed that. Tomás de Torquemada, who was in the Spanish Inquisition scenes, was actually pretty good. They do something really neat for the Spanish. They do something very weird for the Spanish Inquisition. And it's weird, but it's funny. I mean, it just hits the right notes in terms of funny. Mel Brooks also plays King Louis XVI, who, famous figure in history, very famous for being the 16th King of France, and losing his head, being beheaded on the guillotine. So he plays King Louis XVI, and he also plays a duplicate of a dead ringer of King Louis XVI, who is Jacques, whose occupation will make you laugh. I'm just going to say his occupation will make you laugh for sure. So, I mean, watch the movie to see it. It's just funny. So Mel Brooks isn't the only person, obviously, in this film. You have DeLuise, who is a very frequent Mel Brooks collaborator. Been in a lot of his films. DeLuise plays Emperor Nero, who he does a good job doing that. You have Madeline Kahn, who plays Empress Nympho, Empress Nympho, you've heard of the word nymphomaniac, for some of you. But Madeline Kahn plays the role. She's just not as dynamic as she was in Blazing Saddles for me. She was okay. Harvey Korman plays Count de Monet, who was in the French Revolution sketch, basic story. And Harvey Korman just does a great job. Like what he did in Blazing Saddles with Hedley Lamar. He just really hits the mark. He hits the mark in the French Revolution sketch. And a very weird character, Cloris Leachman, plays Madame Defarge, who is in the French Revolution story. And so she does that. So for History of the World Part 1, there aren't as many notable standout characters as there was in Blazing Saddles. Not as many standout characters, not as many moments as what was in Blazing Saddles, but History of the World Part 1 is still it's a very good Mel Brooks movie. I'm going to say it. It's a very good movie that it is funny a lot of the time. I mean, it has its dry moments here and there, but it is a relatively funny movie, and it's powered by Mel Brooks. I mean, he just powers this film. And Dom DeLuise, he joins in a little bit. Harvey Korman as well. There's just not as many great characters in this film as there were in Blazing Saddles, which is... It's a little complaint, but it's not too much of a complaint, because I still, at the end of the day, I really enjoyed this film. So I'm going to give History of the World Part 1 a 4 out of 5 for very good. I mean, it's just, it's a very good addition into the Mel Brooks pantheon of spoof comedies, for sure, and it deserves that spot. So, why there's a History of the World Part 2, I don't quite get, but, you know, well... The reason why, it's a joke about this historical figure named Sir Walter Raleigh, who wrote a book about the ancient history of Greece and Rome, but he only managed to complete a volume 1 of this book, before he was beheaded. And so that's kind of a play on that. So, yeah, Part 1 is a historical joke, and... will we ever see it? Probably not. Mel Brooks is getting up there in age. He hasn't directed a film in years. And so, you know, I don't think we'll see it, but, you know, it's fine. Having History of the World Part 1 is good enough. So, that is it for this video on History of the World Part 1. D-Rock 1992 out.